Shalom. First and foremost, I want to start by giving all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai Bahasham, Rechai HaKodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well and teach well, and peace and blessings to the hopeful elect, pushing this word with all truth, righteousness, and sincerity. Shalom, shalom. This is your brother Corner Walter of the Great Millstone Charlotte Camp. Come on to a quick lesson through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai. And, just touching on this article from Natural News, right? The title, the American Empire will end in poverty and despair, right? And truthfully, it's the Edomite Empire that's going to end in poverty and despair, man, right? In its ultimate collapse, right? This ultimate, final destruction and judgment, right, of Esau, Edom, man, right? Because what we're seeing as we go through this article, all these things that we're seeing take place in geopolitics, right, in regards to the war with Iran, Strait of Hormuz, the dealings with Israel, the American dollar losing value, right? All these things, right, are prophecy, man. And again, it's a sign of the end for Esau, man. And they're trying to prolong the inevitable, right? The Lord has put that spirit of pride on them to think that they're going to come out on the other side of all this with their new world in place, right? But just touching on this, and I believe it's a AI article, but it's the points still remain. It says the introduction, the fraying fabric of the empire, right? And what was America, right? Spiritually Egypt, spiritually Rome. Well, Rome continued, right? But spiritually Egypt, spiritually Assyria, spiritual Babylon, right? All those empires ultimately had their end, man, right? And we're coming to the complete end of America and its factions, man. With those Israelis being the chief house. But reading this, it says, I look at the world in 2026 and I no longer see a beacon of liberty, but a dying empire stumbling toward its own ruin. And that's what America is, man, a dying empire, right? That internal implosion, right? It says this is not a sentiment born of pessimism, but of cold observation. The American project, hijacked by a nexus of central banking, perpetual war, and crony capitalism, has embarked on a suicide mission, right? And that's what we're seeing, man, right? The pride of their heart has deceived them, man, right? It says the end point, I am convinced, will not be a soft landing into mediocrity. It will be a violent descent into widespread poverty, social chaos, and despair, right? And what's the scripture say, man? Right? Let's go to, we'll get that first. First Thessalonians chapter 5. And we'll start in verse 1, right? It says, but of the times and the seasons, brethren, ye have no need that I write unto you. For yourselves know perfectly that the day of the Lord so cometh as a thief in the night. For when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them, as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape. So like it said in the article, right? It will not be a soft landing into mediocrity. It's going to be a violent descent into widespread poverty, social chaos, and despair. And that's what we're seeing, man. Right? The priest Amawan Ariyah and I did a lesson the other night, just going into the mindset of these people, right? Once all the resources are have dried up, man. Right? So this is what we're seeing, right? We're in the beginning stages of all these things taking place, right? It says the evidence is no longer in the periphery. It is the central plot of our national story. Even policy, from the funding of foreign wars to the relentless debasement of our currency, is systemically or systematically stripping the American people of their wealth, their autonomy, and their future, right? And the future of this place is destruction, man, right? This place has no future, right? That's why it said in Isaiah 40, I believe 47, that they didn't consider the latter end, man, right? Yep. This is Isaiah 47:7. And thou sayest, I shall be a lady forever, so that thou didst not lay these things to thy heart, neither didst remember the latter end of it, man. Right? So they didn't think about the end of all this, debauchery, right? The end of all the wickedness that they've, perpetrated throughout the earth, man. Right? The end of the, the U.S. dollar, right? Now the so-called elites, Slovakia, the so-called elites, right, plan to have this place fall down in this fashion, but again, they didn't consider the end of it, man. Right? They didn't know that this was going to be the end of them as well. Right? They thought they were going to be able to come up on the other side, renewed, so to speak. Right? It says, continuing on, the dollar's death spiral has begun. It says the American empire is not dying from an external enemy, but from self-inflicted currency destruction, right? And we know, right, this is all the spirit of the Lord, really, right, that's killing America, right? So, in truth, it is a external, because it's the spirit of Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai, right, operating, man, right? They have no control over this. It says, we have committed the foundational error of believing endless foreign wars and domestic entitlements can be funded by endless money printing. This is not a remote economic theory. It is the lived reality ending our purchasing power every single day. When a currency loses the trust of its users, the empire built upon it collapses. We are witnessing that collapse in slow motion. And again, that sudden destruction is coming, man. Right? The bottom is going to fall out of this place soon, man. Right? Everything is starting to, that implosion, from the internal destruction is happening. But soon, again, that shell of America is going to collapse, man. Right? And it's going to be a violent collapse. Let me get this. Isaiah 19. Isaiah 19. And we'll start in verse 1. It reads, the burden of Egypt, behold, the Lord rideth upon a swift cloud, and shall come into Egypt, and the idols of Egypt shall be moved at his presence, right? And that presence is starting with his spirit, dealing in the earth, man, right? So that's the outside force, right, affecting America, right, in the world as a whole. It says, the idols of Egypt shall be moved at his presence, and the heart of Egypt shall melt in the midst of it, right? And like it says here in the NLT, the hearts of the Egyptians melt with fear, and fear is a great motivator, but it also pushes people right into their most primal decision making, man, right? So that's why where it says, where was it at? In this first section, it said the social chaos and despair, right? That's what's coming to America. As a Elder Hawad and other brothers, there's doom and gloom, man. Right? The only thing, Ezekiel 7:5, right? Let's get that, right? All that's gonna be upon this place is doom and gloom. It's how about Shimon? It's like it. It's Ezekiel 7:5. Thus saith the Lord power, and evil and only evil, behold, is come. Right? So there's only evils, to come upon Babylon the Great, man. And only evils to come to Esau, Edom, right? The Edomite empire is coming to an end. Not just America, not just those Israelis, right? But the Edomite hegemony as a whole is finding itself in its dying embers, man. Right? It says, the end is come, the end is come. It watcheth for thee, behold, it is come, right? So we're in the time where all these things are being made manifest, man. All the prophecies that the Lord has set forth about the destruction of Babylon the Great, right? We're in the midst of these things coming to pass, man. Go back. Let me see. Let's jump down. The next section here, it says, the war machine's true cost is domestic poverty, right? Because the war is going from, America being able to impose their strength, on the world to it's a more digital based, right? More AI centered, you know, more attacks on the infrastructure, right, and the banking systems and things of that nature, man, right? And now with them seeking to strengthen their AI reliance, you see the data centers and things of that nature being built. You see the power and water, right, being siphoned into dealing with that AI, man, right? For them to be able to push forward more militarily, man, right? But reading this, it says the bipartisan push for wars in Ukraine, the Middle East, and the looming confrontation with China, right? Because they haven't they didn't put into account, right, China's influence on Iran, man, right? It says is not about national defense. It is the life support system for imperial overreach, a racket that enriches contractors and empire managers while bankrupting the nation. It says, I believe the true weapon of mass destruction deployed against the American people is the Federal Reserve printing press. It funds these foreign adventures by directly stealing the value of every dollar in your wallet and savings. And that's why, they're pushing forward this the central bank digital currencies, man. Right? That's why you have Trump talking about the CBDCs, right? That's why you have things like the Fed coin and things of that nature, man. Right? Because they're trying to transition you into that digital dollar so that they can make that transition into the mark of the beast quicker, man. Right? So it can go off without a hitch, or so-called without a hitch, man. Right now, we know that people are going to buck up against it, but they're going to be in such a state of despair, as we read again, right? In the social chaos and despair, that they're going to fold for it, man. Right? Getting this here, right? And again, that goes into the Isaiah 19, right? Where they go back to it. We'll read more on that. But going back to that, where it says in the latter of the first verse in the NLT, the hearts of the Egyptians shall melt with fear, man, right? Because they're going to be afraid of what they don't have, or the lack of resource. So then they're going to find themselves in a position where they have to take that mark, man, right? It says here in 2nd Ezra 15, and we'll start in 14. Well, let's see here. Yeah, we'll start in 14. It says, woe to the world and them that dwell therein, for the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands, right? So that social chaos, man. For there shall be sedition, right, among men, and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power, right? So your government leaders, right, they have no say, right, in this current technocracy oligarchy, man, right? They're a small fish, so they're gonna fall victim to the chaos of the people, man, right? And as that chip gets implemented, right, and mandated, these people that are in these chaotic situations are gonna fold, man, right? They're gonna find themselves, right, bowing the knee, right, to Baal, as the scriptures say, man. That's why we pray that we have the spirit of endurance, right, to make it through all these trials that the Lord is going to put before us, and that chief one being that trial of temptation from the mark of the beast. And A man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able, right? And we see that now. They're going to start these passport systems. They're going to have these checkpoints, right? You're not going to be able to travel, because they have what ICE in the airports and things of that nature, right? You won't be able to move around as freely, right? For because of their pride, the city shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and the men shall be afraid. And part of that pride, going back to the article, is that military push, man, right? Them thinking that they're gonna be able to just walk all over the whole earth, right? As the Lord is pulling back, that left hand power, man. They're being exposed, and again, it's weakening the system as a whole as well. Let's see here. Yeah, we'll keep going. Continuing on in this section, the war machine's true cost is domestic poverty, right? And going into was it Revelation? I believe it's 6. Let me see. Right, because we're about to see hyperinflation hit this place as well. Yep, so Revelation chapter 6. Actually, we'll read this first and then we'll get that verse. It says, "This is not capitalism, it is a corrupt cronyism where the political and financial elite feast on the fruits of this manufactured money. As economist Ellen Brown notes, in our system, the economy grows mainly from money-making money, which the proceeds funneled to the financial elite rather than the laborers, right? And what does it say in Job, right? Right, the hands of the laborers are going to be upon this man, right? Or the hands of the wicked, but that wicked goes into the laborers, man, right? It says, the tangible cost is here at home. We see it in the skyrocketing prices of essentials, in warehouse fires sparked by desperate workers, right? So all these Amazon workers, right? All these various warehouse workers that are getting slaved to death, right? It's a article where a guy died right in the warehouse, and the people had to work around him, and then they tried to hide it for a week, man. Right? This is the mind. This is where the people are. The people are at right now, man. They're realizing that they're in what's the word? Neo slavery, right? A reformed, refurbished version of the chattel slavery that Jake found themselves in, being brought to the Americas, man. Right now, all these Americans find themselves in that same state. Says the tangible cost is here at home. We see the skyrocketing prices of essentials, in the warehouse fires sparked by desperate workers deny the living wage, a wage whose value has been vaporized by inflation. The war machine's most devastating casualties are not on foreign battlefields, but in the collapsing standard of living of the American working class. And that's what you're seeing today, is that this whole place, right? The war itself was initiated in order to collapse the economy, man, right? That's why you see the, what's it called? The so-called ceasefires and things of that nature taking place, because there's, they don't want to initiate that nuclear warfare yet, right? But they want to be able to have this a controlled collapse, right, in the eyes of the elite, man. Right, while the workers, right, while the world as a whole is suffering, again, to put them in that mindset of being willing to receive that mark, right? Now let me get that. Revelation 6:6, and I heard a voice in the midst of the four beasts say, a measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny. And see thou hurt not the oil and the wine, right? Salakia. Right? And that's a day's wages being taken and and needed to make one loaf of bread, man, right? Or like it says here, it says in the NLT, I heard a voice from among the four living beings say, a loaf of wheat bread or 3 loaves of barley will cost a day's pay, and don't waste the olive oil and wine. And that oil and wine going into the elect, man, right? And this truth, right? Those who believe are going to be, what's the word? Kept, right? But everybody's going to feel the squeeze of, right? This coming financial collapse, man, right? That penny going into the Roman denarian, right, which was what they used for a day's pay, you know. But going back to that article, like it said, where we at? It says the money is being funneled to the financial elite rather than laborers. The tangible cost is here at home. We see the skyrocketing price of essentials, and in the warehouse fire sparked by desperate workers to deny the living wage. Right, so the money is losing its value. The people are getting less money, and the food and resources are becoming more expensive, man. Right, so all these things are leading to that implementation of that mark of the beast, man. Right, being that RFID microchip. Right, it says from protests to guillotines, the inevitable path to chaos, right? And again, like we read in that second Esdras, right? The sedition, right? Verse 16, second Esdras 15 and 16, for there shall be sedition among men and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions will stand in their power. Because these protests are going to go from peaceful to violent quickly, man, right? Like it says, from protests to guillotines, the inevitable path to chaos. History is unequivocal, and an impoverished and hungry populace does not remain docile forever, right? And the Lord is intensifying that spirit, man, right? Going back to the, Isaiah 19. Isaiah 19 and verse 2. And I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians, and they shall fight everyone against his brother and everyone against his neighbor, city against city, and kingdom against kingdom, right? So you're about to see, civil war. You're about to see, right, the division of families, over these things, man. This is what we're seeing, the seeds are being laid, man, right? And they're starting to sprout. It reads, as the financial vice tightens, man, and that squeeze, man, the financial vice is tightening, right? That's a lesson right there. It says, I foresee the initial wave of protest, likely from a desperate left reaching to economic immiseration, being met not with reform, but with escalating government authoritarianism. We have already seen the blueprint for crushing speech and dissent, right? And that's what's coming, right? Public, what's it called? Salakia. The censorship, right? The censorship is about to become a big topic again, man, right? Anybody speaking contrary to the current power structure is going to be vilified, right? Anybody who, like it says, the dissenters, right? You're gonna face imprisonment and things of that nature, man, right? And those are things going into the persecution that we're gonna face for this testimony, right? Those are things that are on the horizon, man, right? And that are being the groundwork is being laid out for, right? But like I said, from protests to guillotines, man, right? Because eventually those protests are going to turn violent, man, right? These protests are going to go from, protests to war in the street, right? Civil war is taking place, right? City, like I said, city against city, kingdom against kingdom, man, right? That movie, Bushwick, is a good example of that, man, right? Because the whole New York City was, being overrun right? Between a war between people fighting against the government and them trying to control the people right in the cities, man, right? This crackdown will not solve the crisis; it will fuel it. It will serve as a recruiting tool for more desperate factions, right? Leading to kind of kinetic violent unrest that has toppled empires and shattered states throughout history, right? Because America is no different, right, than Rome, right? They just have the technological advancements, right? It's no different than Egypt, right? As the scriptures say, that shall hit Egypt with plagues as before, roughly paraphrasing, man. It says they will become, it's like I lost it. Violent unrest that has toppled empires and shattered states throughout history. The social contract is broken, right? So all what we're about to see is people, in that dog eat dog spirit, man. It says when people have nothing left to lose, they become ungovernable. What did it say? It said there shall be sedition, 2 Ezra 15 and 16. For there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another, they shall not regard their kings nor princes, right? Their governors, politicians, police officers, right? Presidents, whoever. And the course of their actions shall stand in their power. So they're going to become ungovernable, man, right? It says the state's response will be to become more tyrannical, right? And as it read in Isaiah 19, right? That cruel Lord, where are we at? Yep. Jumping down to verse 4. Well, we'll read through verse 3. The spirit of Egypt shall fail in the midst thereof, right? Actually, let's read this in the NLT. Verse 3 in the NLT. The Egyptians will lose heart, and I will confuse their plans. And they will plead with their idols for wisdom and call on spirits, mediums, and those who consult with the spirits of the dead, right? As people lose heart, as people grow more and more confused because they don't have the foundation of this wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, given to us by Yahweh Bashim Yahushua, right? They're going to start to seek out those spirits. They're going to seek out the comforts from these governors or the so-called elite, man, right? Who are communing with these left-hand spirits, man, right? It says, jumping back to KJV, and the Egyptians will I give over into the hand of a cruel Lord, and a fierce king shall rule over them, saith the Lord of hosts. And as brothers have been making mention, that's Nero, man, right? Trump. Nero operated in the same fashion. He was that cruel Lord, right, during that time, right? And like it says, the state's response will be to become more tyrannical, right? So tyranny is going to be, at an all-time high. It says creating a feedback loop of oppression and resistance that ends only in the widespread chaos and bloodshed. And that's what's coming to America, man. Widespread chaos and bloodshed, right? And to the earth as a whole, man, because everybody's going to feel, right? Specifically, these American vassals, right? Right? They're all going to feel that squeeze. That's why everybody is up in arms about the Strait of Hormuz, man, right? Because that's intensifying, right? The squeeze that's upon these people, man, right? Like it said, that vice, that financial vice. It says the false savior, while socialism will rise from the ashes. That's not. Because that's what they want to happen, man, right? That's what they want to establish, whatever system that they have in place, right? But the Lord isn't going to allow these devils to build back up, man, right? It's let me see. Yeah, we'll read this last little section. It says a choice between freedom and despair, which there is no choice, for for Babylon the Great, man. There's no choice for Esau, right? It's only despair. Again, evils and only evils is coming upon this land, man. Right? We'll go back to that. But it says here, so I do not write this to spread fear, but to sound an alarm. The trajectory is set. The American empire, right, going this just Edomite empire as a whole, built on the foundation of fiat debt and military hegemony, and that's the earth as a whole, man. Right, is built on fiat debt, right? And these other militaries, if they had the might, they would they would operate in the same fashion, man. Right? We saw it with right go from America to Great Britain, going into who was it before that? The Dutch, right? You had was it Constantinople, or I believe it was Turkey, right? All these other groups, right? Spain, the French, they all operated in the same way, man. Right? They had that military hegemony in the earth. It was just now recently that the fiat currency, right, became the standard. But it continues on. The outcome would be poverty and despair for those who remain dependent on its corrupt system, and that's what's coming, right? Poverty and despair to the earth, right? And it's part of the judgment, man, right? Let me get back to that Ezekiel, and then we'll jump back. This is Ezekiel 7 and verse 1. Moreover, the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, also, thou son of man, thus saith the Lord power unto the land of Israel. An end is come upon the four corners of the land. Now, when you read this in the NLT, it says, son of man, this is what the sovereign Lord says to Israel. The end is here, right? The end is here, right? It says, and we're witnessing the end, right? It's a blessing to be able to witness these things, man, because we know we're that much closer to our salvation, man, right? That much closer to being freed from the bondage of this debt system, or having these heathen have any rule or influence in the earth, man, right? That much closer to a righteous kingdom, right? The new bodies, all these things, man, right? It says the end is here. Wherever you look, east, west, north, or south, your land is finished, right? So like this article talking about, they come to these conclusions of, choosing freedom or escaping the grid before it crashes. There's no hope, man, right? The land is finished, like it says here, man. No hope remains, right? There's no hope for Babylon the Great. There's no hope for this Edomite hegemony, man, right? Across the entire earth, right? Not just America. We know America is doomed, right? But the Edomite hegemony and rulership system as a whole has no hope left, man, right? It says, for I will unleash my anger against you. I will call you to account for all your detestable sins. And that happened to us. And now it's happening to the rulership and the people, right, in this current system, man, right? It says, I will turn my eyes away and show no pity. I will repay you for all your detestable sins. Then you will know that I am the Lord. And that's what we're about to see, right? Is the Lord exercise his power in the earth, man, right? Exercise his will and judgment, right, upon all the wicked and 2/3, man, right? It said, this is what the sovereign Lord says. Disaster after disaster is coming your way, right? Disaster after disaster. That's why it said, this article is talking about poverty and despair, right? When you're in a state of despair, you don't see any escape, man, right? Because it's continual bad times, man, right? What they say, a polycrisis, right? Right? This is what's hitting the earth. It says the end is come. It's like the end has come. It has finally arrived, right? This is what the day that we've been waiting for, man, right? Just like you read in Lamentations, where the nations said that this is the day that they awaited for, when they could put us in captivity and under subjection, right? This is the day that we've waited for, man. It has finally arrived, right? Your final doom is waiting. The final doom of the Edomite hegemony, of the Edomite power structure, right? the Edomite mindset in the earth, right? This is the final doom is here, man, right? And we're just waiting for the Lord to finish, man, right? We're watching the Lord put the finishing touches, right, on this final destruction, man. And we only have a few prophecies left, right, that have to come to pass before we're out of here, man, right? Let me go back to this. We'll just finish this out. I'll close out. 2 Ezra 15 and 16. For there shall be sedition among men and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes. In the course of their actions shall stand in their power. A man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. For because of their pride, the cities shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid, right? Going back to that Isaiah 19. It says, a man shall have no pity on his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword and spoil their goods because of lack of bread and for great tribulation, man. So that Revelation 6 and 6, right? Going back to the article being titled, right? The American Empire will end in poverty and despair, right? But the Edomite Empire as a whole is going to end in poverty and despair, you know? Let me see what else. Let me see here. Yeah, because this whole chapter pretty much exemplifies that article, man, right? But I'll read these first three verses just to show that that's how much closer we are to the end, man, right? Closer than we believe. We're one event, right? One what's it called, false flag or a black swan event, right? From everything, all out chaos hitting, man, right? And again, this whole empire being brought to ruin, This is Habakkuk 2 and 1. As I will stand upon my watch and set me upon the tower, and will watch to see what he will say unto me, and what I shall answer when I am reproved. And the Lord answered me and said, write the vision and make it plain upon tables, that he may run that readeth it, right? So we're seeing these things take place before our eyes, right? And brothers is doing a diligent job of what's the word? Giving this message out, man, right? Giving these warnings, right? In the clearest way possible, right? In the way that can be most easily understood, As I said, he may run that readeth it. You hear this word and you take action, man, right? It says, for the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come. It will not tarry, right? So this time is moving quickly, man, right? And it's going to be here before we know it, right? Again, the American Edomite Empire will end in poverty and despair, quickly, man, right? And this is what we're seeing, the death spiral of the dollar, right? The fraying fabric of this empire, right? The cost of the war machine being poverty, right? And what we're about to see soon come, protests turning to guillotines and the inevitable path to chaos, man, right? That word inevitable, Salakia, that word inevitable being, unavoidable, man, right? It's an unavoidable path to chaos, right? So it's no healing of thy bruise, right? That wound is grievous. All the scriptures that talk about how, there's no turning back, for Babylon the Great, man. That the arrows have been shot, right, of prophecy, Like I said, look, I'll read this since I quoted it. 2 Ezra 16 and I'll start in verse 1. It says, woe be unto thee, Babylon and Asia. Woe be unto thee, Egypt and Syria. Gird up yourselves with cloths of sack and hair. Bewail your children and be sorry, for your destruction is at hand. Right. So Esau, your whole system's destruction is at hand and is coming soon. A sword is sent upon you, and who may turn it back? A fire is sent among you, and who may quench it? Plagues are sent unto you, and what is he that may drive them away? Right. So the all various manners of destruction are upon this place, man. It says, may any man drive away a hungry lion in the wood, or may anyone quench the fire in stubble when it had begun to burn. May one turn again the arrow that is shot of a strong archer. The mighty Lord sendeth the plagues, and who is he that can drive them away? Right? A fire shall go forth from his wrath, and who is he that may quench it, man? And this is what we're seeing, man, that fire going forth, right? Which is going to culminate in that nuclear destruction, man, right? But the Spirit of the Lord, being as that fire, is upon the earth as we speak. And it's operating to bring the demise of this Edomite hegemony, right? It's operating to control the minds of the kings toward war, right? To put these so-called elites in the mind frame of having that pride, man, that they can't be touched, that they can't be stopped, right? Ultimately, as he did to Pharaoh, right? To put him in the position where the Lord can show his true power and bring him down, man, right? But like I said, right, who's gonna be able to quench this, man? Who's gonna, turn these plagues away, right? Who's gonna be able to end the poverty and despair, man? Right? Who's gonna be able to, like they try to say, bring freedom to the people, man? Right? True freedom is coming to the elect and only the elect. And then the Israelites as they come back in the kingdom. Everybody else is gonna suffer this chaos and despair, man. Right? And that nuclear destruction. But that was it, man. Lord willing, that was edifying through the Spirit and power of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. I want to close by giving all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai Bahasham, Rekha HaKodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well and teach well, and peace and blessings to the hopeful elect, pushing this word with all truth, righteousness, and sincerity. Hey, shalom, shalom, Kwam Yasharallah, and the Bible Ball. Shalom.